Hello, I'm Kamal, CEO of SkyMeter, and I have some good news for you. There's a big problem out there with transport emissions. We know they're a huge source of emissions, they're the fastest growing source, and they're apparently the most resistant to solution. And yet, there is a solution, a single, simple solution that our firm, SkyMeter, enables. It's a solution the US politician once called the single greatest thing that he could do for the environment and for his voters. Now, to understand the power of this solution, let's go back to basics. Emissions from transport depend on two things: miles traveled and emissions per mile. Emissions per mile are really set when you buy your car. Now, we have many great ideas on how to make cars more efficient. I'll just take hybrids as one simple example. Hybrids are now moving to the mass market, such that today 1% of all new cars sold are hybrids. Now, the problem is it takes 10 years on average. Well, the average age of a car in the US is 10 years. So today's new cars in 10 years are just going to be the average cars. Fixing emissions is changing, reducing emissions per mile is a wonderful idea, but it's going to take a long time to work. So what about miles traveled? Well, miles traveled go up on average 3% every year in the US, much more in developing countries. In fact, the reason why transport emissions go up every year is because our added driving swamps the emission savings from new cars. So, the simple, powerful solution that our company SkyMeter enables, the solution is to reward people for driving less. How do we do that? Well, we change how we pay for driving. Change it from a flat fee payment to metered payment, from paying per year to paying per mile. If you're going to change to metered payments, you need a meter. You can call it a driving meter, an in-car parking meter, a smart meter for cars, a smart meter for driving. We call it SkyMeter. Now, why is this so powerful? Well, ask yourself, would you drive less if it cost you $1 per mile to drive? Imagine 10-mile trip to the mall and back. If that cost you $10, would you change your shopping habits? How about a 40-mile commute? Would you take transit or carpool even a little bit more if it cost you $40 per day for that commute? Now, it sounds really expensive, doesn't it? And yet, the thing is, you already do pay $1 per mile to drive. You just don't realize it, and you have no control over it. Because the thing is, you pay $10,000 per year, either direct payments for your car, insurance, etc., all those flat payments, or indirect subsidies for parking, your taxes for your roads. You have no power there. If you own a car, you're going to pay those $10,000 no matter what. 10,000 miles, $1 per mile. It's the price of owning your car, paying taxes in the city you live in. Now just stop and imagine for a second if that were a $0 flat fee and you just paid it when you used your car. Imagine paying for your car lease per mile rather than per month. Imagine your insurance being paid per mile and not per year. Imagine paying your maintenance per mile with all your repairs for free. How about cutting your tax bill by having roads paid per mile and you only pay when you drive on them? You could increase your salary by having your employer resell the parking and you pay for your employee parking only if you actually use it. Carpool, parking saving to share around. Now, in this case, every mile less you drive is going to save you $1. So maybe instead of driving 10,000 miles, you drive 7,000 miles. Well, you just rewarded yourself and saved $3,000 for that year. Now, what happens when we all do this on aggregate? How much are we going to change? Well, a lot depends on the prices we set, etc. But we do know one thing. We know that meters have made a huge difference in consumption across utilities. For instance, in the past 2 decades, communities around the US have been changing from flat fee water to metered water, installing water meters. The savings, a reduction of 20 to 40% in usage. Imagine the same thing in cars. A reduction of 20 to 40% in emissions by just taking the utility of driving and changing it to per mile. You can now see the big picture of what SkyMeter can do. By the way, in terms of where we are as a company, We have systems which are already installed and working in small volumes. We are raising funds, a further $4.5 million, to roll out large volumes to already interested customers in Europe. So certainly, if you're looking at this, you know investors who you think would like to support what we're doing, you can follow up with them. Independent of that though, this video is about businesses. What's the story for businesses? Well, the first place I can start is with employee parking policies, employee parking cash out. SkyMeter is a system that can provide transaction data which simply says, did the employee's car come to work today? If not, give them a cash out. Beyond that, there are a series of other things that can be looked at for fleet management. For instance, pay-as-you-drive insurance for fleet. We provide very good data to enable that fleet service, etc. Really, we look on ourselves as a metering company, not a services provider. So if you know a services provider or have a service in mind which needs to measure what the car did, send a bill at the end of the month, and be certain that those transactions are accurate, then call us and we'll enable it. Because the more people who adopt this on smaller local commercial bases, the more likely it is to become a mass market. And this really is a technology, an application, which is a mass market, which is something which can transform the cities we live in, transforming traffic, transforming parking, transforming how we think about how we drive.